yeah, I think they're fun. So how much of me is showing?
About here.
Oh, okay, so my notes are not in the,
Nope.
oh, okay. I'll try not to look down too much. Christine already knows what we're gonna do anyway, so
Yeah.
she'll be just chalking away.
Look okay?
Okay.
Do I look okay?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Something needs to be fixed.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
I know that's always it. And you know, and every time I get a picture taken, it's like, well, why didn't somebody tell me that that looked like that?
Oh, my husband, I'm always like, why don't you tell me these things? What the heck? Do you even look at me?
Yeah. Do you care?
You've been together too long.
Yeah, I know the feeling. I know the feeling. Oh my gosh.
Worse yet, he'll say, well, you always look like that. You should have told me that 20 years ago.
It's like, well, thank you for that information now.
Yeah, now.
Could have maybe done something
My
about
kids
it.
are just as bad.
Oh, yeah.
My daughter's, she's beautiful, just, she's like model beautiful. And she's like the face of everything. So I just hide behind her and we'll go to these beauty shows.
Oh.
And like we went to one down in Dallas.
Everybody have water? Do you have water?
Yep, she does.
Okay, awesome. I'm gonna go get some water and then we're gonna go ahead and start.
Okay.
If you ever go to Dallas, you know, beauty is huge.
Oh,
The
I'm
big hair, you know, the
Oh,
whole
I'm
thing.
sure.
And so we show up and, you know, of course she looks, you know, just beautiful. There's me, like the stage mother behind her.
Plodding
Oh my
around.
goodness. All these women are just, oh my gosh. I have
Flawless, huh?
just like, yeah. Yeah. And boy, you get over really, when you're me, you get over that really fast, pretty much for the most part, because it's like, well, I'm never going to be on par with that. The heels are all like this high.
Oh,
The hair is this big.
yeah, yeah.
I'm talking about New Jersey or the
Uh,
pageant?
Dallas.
Oh,
Yeah.
Dallas.
Beauty,
Yep.
a beauty
Everything's
expo.
bigger in
And
Texas.
it was a beauty expo, so everybody was just.
Okay.
To the T, huh?
And we are going live on Facebook. In a minute. Yeah.
Okay. Tell me when.
Okay.
Welcome to our beer discussion with Christine Untiedt, owner and entrepreneur of Brown Barn Botanicals. My name is Lisa Bruhn. I am the past chair for Chippewa County Economic Development Corporation, and I'm also on the board currently. I would like to thank you for joining us today to our business expansion and retention program. And just before we start, I just have a couple of housekeeping items for you. Please mute your mic if you haven't done so already. And then also, as we go through our conversation today, please enter your questions into the chat box if you have something that you want answered by Christine regarding her business. We will do a question and answer session at the end of our discussion. So, and if you don't have access to chat box, get that piece of paper out and jot down your notes real quick, because I don't want you to miss anything and want to have your questions answered. I'd also like to just take a moment to thank our sponsors, CBS Squared and the Hospital Sisters Health System, St. Joseph Chippewa Falls, for sponsoring our program today. So thank you very much for that. So we're going to start talking with Christine. Christine, could you please tell us a little bit about yourself and what you feel you can tell us about your family and those kinds of things?
Sure. I am a 58-year-old wife, mother, grandmother, farmer, and entrepreneur. And I own an agri-based business that is also a beauty business. So that makes it a little unique. And our company makes products for skincare. But what makes it unique is that we harvest and get our ingredients from our farm, or some of the ingredients come from the farm, and then we take it all the way to the end. So everything's done in-house, and it's a small batch beauty company.
That's wonderful. So where did you grow up?
I grew up in Waukesha, Wisconsin, and I grew up on a multi-generational family farm. So I'm the fourth generation in that farm.
Oh, wow.
I have three older brothers, and my grandparents and everyone thought the boys would be the farmers.
Sure.
And I am the only one in my generation that went into farming.
Oh,
And but not the kind of farming that they did. They did cows and, big fields of corn and things like
Mhm.
that. But
Sure.
I do botanical farming, and
Okay.
I started out with a greenhouse, and then it just morphed into this. And so that's where I come from. My parents, when I was 3 years old, my parents bought some land on Lake Holcombe, and my dad built a cabin, and that was to get away from his parents basically on a farm. And so every weekend we would escape to Holcombe, and then in 1990 they retired up here, and I followed
Okay.
them. So I started out, I was a teacher, and then eventually got into this, and this took over.
Well, that's very cool.
Yeah.
So what were you teaching when you were
I was an
teaching?
elementary school teacher.
Okay.
I have a master's in education. And
Okay.
during my time teaching elementary school, I ended up specializing in gifted and talented instruction. So
Okay.
as a teacher in the Wausau School District Magnet program.
Oh,
And
cool.
then my husband does manure irrigation, and his business really took off. So it was kind of a combination of a bunch of things that I left
Sure.
teaching and helped him with his business.
Mhm.
And then after a while, had my own.
Okay, so I'm not a farmer.
Mhm.
What does manure irrigation mean?
So do you know what a manure pit is?
I definitely know what my husband used to build those. So
Okay,
yes,
so
I do
he's
know.
the manure pumper that pumps the manure from the manure pit.
Oh,
And
okay.
he does
Okay.
injection style where they put it into the ground. They don't spread on top.
Oh,
Almost
all
everybody
right.
does injection now, I think.
Sure, sure.
Um,
Thank goodness.
Yeah,
If you've ever driven past a liquid manure farm.
yeah. And he was one of the first actually that did
Oh my
that. So-
gosh, well,
so
that's
he's-
really neat.
He's been in a long time.
Well, that is very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool. You said you have children.
Yes, I
Mhm.
have a girl and a boy, and my daughter Alyssa. So if anyone follows our company, they know about Alyssa, and she is our formulator. And she also owns her own skincare brand, 7 Day Glow. And she would be here with me, but she is pregnant with her second child. So we're announcing it to the world. It's supposed to be secret. Don't tell anyone. And she is morning sickness really badly. So she said, no, this would not be a good idea for her today. And then I have a son who's 18
Mhm.
months younger than her, and he lives in Menominee, and he works for Jewel as an engineer.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, great. Well, thank you for sharing those things with us. That's sound wonderful. It's nice to have a family member involved too
Yes.
with your business.
Yeah,
I'm
we're very
sure.
much a family
Well,
business.
that's awesome. Awesome. So how did this idea of botanicals and herbs and all that start? Where did you start getting that idea from, and what kind of drove that?
I would say Brown Barn is a greenhouse gone bad.
Oh,
Years ago, one of my many years ago, when my husband and I got married, we knew we wanted to raise our kids in the country, and this was in the 90s. And we back then Martha Stewart was really big, and I loved Martha Stewart,
Sure.
and she had greenhouse and everything. And I had said to my husband, "Oh, I want to have a greenhouse. That would be so cool to just have your own greenhouse." And my husband's very he's just a go-getter. So he found somebody in Abbotsford, and that's where we're living. He's from Colby, who actually had a little farm, 40 acres, with a glass vintage greenhouse,
oh,
and they were looking to move. This man was looking to move. He had
Sure.
a different job. So we showed up on their doorstep, and we asked if he wanted to sell his house. It wasn't for sale, and he said sure. And we saw the greenhouse, and it had woods, and we bought this. We didn't even look at the house. The house has been in renovation ever since. But it was a wonderful thing. And at that time I was teaching full time. And so my kids and I, we planted seeds, and I was teaching them because I was raised on the farm. And we had our tomatoes and our marigolds and stuff. And I'd go to work, and then I'd come home, and there'd be 50 cents on the counter in the workshop, and a note saying, I grabbed some of your tomatoes. Well, unbeknownst to me, the lady that had owned it before the man we bought it from had run this as a commercial greenhouse for like 30 years. And all the neighbors were coming and thought we were in business, and they were just buying and taking what the kids and I made. I ended up having to go buy all my plants that year because by the end of school season, they were gone. So over time, we finally gave in. We said, well, might as well run it as a business because these people are not leaving us alone. And we have great neighbors, and very fun. And so that's so then I ended up with this greenhouse business, and I was teaching, and the greenhouse really took off and did well. So my husband's business was also doing well at that time. So we decided I would quit teaching and do this. And within a year, there was a lot of new neighbors that moved in the Amish and Mennonite community, and they all had greenhouses, and it just like the market became flooded with greenhouses. So I took a break. But the one thing I, loved and missed out of that were the herbs. And I always loved my herbs. And, the kids went off to college, and I started to get empty nest syndrome really bad. And I was like, I'm going to do something like that. Greenhouses. So I was looking at the greenhouse. And so I mentioned it to my daughter, who was then a junior, and she had gone to college for wildlife management and biology. So to be a wildlife biologist.
Okay.
So she has a lot of background in biology, chemistry, plants, like just the whole thing, ethnobotany. And she said, oh, that'd be really fun. Let's do an herb farm. And we'd traveled by this point all over, and we visited herb farms out in the state of Washington. So we made the cutest herb farm you ever saw. There were just lots of different herbs, and we put our hearts into it, but we knew nothing about marketing. So we had one customer. And at the end of the season, Alyssa, of course, like most kids, went to college, back to school, and forgot about me. And I was stuck with all these herbs. I was like, what am I going to do? And I couldn't just let them die. The farmer in me was like, oh, I can't do that. So I harvested them all. I dried them in the Brown Barn that was on our property. And I learned how to make eye pillows and taught myself how to make like eye pillows and bath bombs, lotion, soap. I spent like a whole winter on this. So my husband, being in manure irrigation, that was kind of a key thing there. So that Christmas, we gave them as gifts to his customers.
Oh.
And I started an Etsy shop. And if you don't know what Etsy is an online marketplace for small handmade companies.
Oh, sure.
So the farmer's wives started buying, and then it just kind of went from there. And next thing you know, you couldn't walk through our house, and it was very much a kitchen sink operation in the early days. And finally, we were going to set up shop in our township and have on our property and use the barn. But because it became smart growth zoned, I couldn't just do whatever I wanted to do. And the barn was, everything was located too close to the house. It would require a huge amount of money to move the barn. And we went through the process of getting part of it rezoned. And finally, we just looked at each other and said, we need to do something different. So we went to Holcombe, where my parents lived, and we had a cabin in Holcombe, and my sister-in-law was there. And I got a retail space there. And we also bought a building to use as a lab, because I knew I needed to get out of this kitchen sink thing. I needed to be more professional than that. And that our first Brown Barn retail store was born, and it really went fast. And then after that, next thing I knew, I had 5 stores in 2 states. And my daughter jumped in as soon as she graduated from college, shocked us all. I thought she was going to end up, in some other country studying animals. And she came and said, I want to do this with you. And she said, while I was doing all of this, which she was in college, she was, and again, unbeknownst to me, like many mothers, bear with me, in my defense, I did not know that her dorm room had been designated kind of an experimental thing by UW Stevens Point as an environmental eco dorm room. And she would give tours of her dorm room, and she had gotten all of these natural beauty products to try and give input on, and even like everything in there was recycled or from recyclable materials. So she really got into this, and it just kind of all happened at once. It was just meant to be in a way. And yeah, so that went on. So we had the stores for a good 5 years or more, and finally we got to the point where we were so burnt out, and we were making the same products over and over and over, and it wasn't what we intended. Our vision had been that we would live this relaxed life, and we would wake up and have yoga, and then we would go to the store and we'd make products. It would just be such a nice life. And instead it was wild. I mean, it was just 30 employees and go, 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 and just, could not keep up with manufacturing. I mean, it was just wild. And it was great and wonderful. And it got our name out there, and it built our customer base, which was so important to where we are now. It was the key. So then around 2015, we started getting more and more online and having more and more sales online.
Sure.
And Alyssa was married by this point. She got married and wanted to have children, and stress. We just said, we got to take a break and we need to rethink this. At one point, we were making 350 different SKUs of product in our little lab, all by ourselves.
In Holcombe?
In Holcombe. Yeah,
Oh,
the lab is
wow.
in Holcombe. It's still in Holcombe. And we were transporting this out, and it was just too much. And that's when I got involved with the Economic Development Center and Charlie, and and he really helped guide us to a more manageable situation. And part of our problem is we never want to disappoint anyone. And we love our customers. We have the most wonderful customers, and some of them have been with me since day one. And I hate to disappoint people, so I never want to take something away. And I keep wanting to add, because people are like, how about this or how about that? So so that's a real challenge, was a real challenge for me. And I had to learn to get over that and look at my profit margins and things that I didn't want to think about. So that's how we ended up in it. So it's not like your typical beauty product story where someone comes in and says, oh, I had eczema and I couldn't solve my skincare problems. It was something that just evolved.
You had an herb problem.
Yeah, I had an herb problem, but it was it's been a wonderful journey for us. And we started out, it was more lotions. And at that time, this was in 2011 when I opened the first store, nobody really around here, at least in the Midwest, it was a new thing. It started on the West Coast, then it went to the East Coast, the push for all natural skincare. And it was just starting to happen here. So we had to explain to the customers what we did and why we did it. And it was a lot of consumer education, which tied great with my background in education.
Oh, certainly.
And Alyssa took over the lab and the formulating, and she just got more and more into that. And we both got trained to be certified in formulating all natural skincare products. So that was, primary for us.
What does it take to become certified?
Well, back then we went to California and we had like a series of classes with an expert, and through her program, it's not like becoming certified as a teacher where you go and you get a license from the state. This is just a private thing that we were certified through. But now it's still kind of like that, but now you can get actually a college education in it. There's a lot more that you can do.
Wow.
But Alyssa had already had chemistry and biology and ethnobotany and all these great courses. So she had a great foundation. And she's actually now a member of the Cosmetic Chemist Society. And she went on and she's a certified aromatherapist. So she could do like clinical aromatherapy if she wanted to. And that all comes into our formulating. And she just is very good at this. It's kind of a talent. We always say she's got the nose. She has the nose in the family. But we are a vertically integrated company. So we try to keep it. That means everything. For people that don't know what vertically integrated means, it's kind of the Henry Ford approach, where we make our own ingredients as much as we can, or we source as locally as we possibly can, and we make the products in-house, and we do our own labels in-house, and we ship from in-house. So everything is done from seed to skin all the way through. And I'd like to keep it like that as much as I can. As we grow, it gets to be more and more challenging. But there's a lot of benefit to that for the customer.
I would imagine there's more control over your product by doing it that way.
Oh yeah, your quality is much, much, much higher. And the ingredients we know what our ingredients are. I know what variety of mint, that is, and the date it was planted, when it was harvested. I can go through and pick out the very best leaves and the very best pieces of it,
Mhm.
chuck the rest. I know there's no weeds mixed in. It hasn't been sitting on a warehouse shelf. It hasn't traveled from halfway around the world. It hasn't been exposed to fumes or other contaminants.
Sure.
And that just, I hear from the customers all the time, "Well, I've tried somebody else. I went somewhere else. Now I'm back. There's just something different about your products."
Mhm.
And now with Brown Barn, we've actually gotten to the point now where we actually, Brown Barn owns 3 different brands, and then there's 7-Day Glow, my daughter's brand. But it all goes back to these ingredients that we grow on the farm, and we're starting to get to the point where other brands are contacting us to see about getting some of our ingredients, which is pretty cool.
Oh, great.
Yeah, it's just,
Sure.
it's not something I ever thought we'd be doing.
Oh,
but,
sure.
It's just part of our journey, I guess.
Oh, that's fantastic. So the title Brown Barn, did that come back kind of from your original,
From the barn.
from the barn?
Yeah.
That's what I was kind
Yeah.
of suspecting, but
Yeah, and it was a
how fun
real
is that?
tumble down barn, which actually is not there now because the insurance company made us actually pull it over. So this year was very sad that we
Oh,
had
sure.
to lose the barn.
Well, and you mentioned something a little bit earlier about smart zoned or smart growing.
Yeah, smart
So
growth.
what is that? Can
That
you
was
explain that?
something, I think it came around like 2005 maybe. I remember we got a survey and the town board signed up for this. And I don't know if it was just, we're in Marathon County over there,
Mhm, okay.
but I think it was throughout the state. But there's a committee in our township and they decide, the zoning decisions for
Sure.
the township.
Mhm.
And our farm, when we bought it, was not zoned. And our farm is zoned for agricultural use. So it's
Okay.
40 acres. We use about 10 of that for Brown Barn.
Mhm.
And then my husband uses some of it, and the rest we are slowly letting it go back to the wildlife.
Sure.
So we're really into with Alyssa being wildlife.
Yeah.
So anyways, so I'm okay making ingredients using my agricultural zoning because I'm actually an agribusiness. I grow and I process it and I move it out.
Sure.
But if, let's say, for example, I wanted to formulate on the farm, and then it would involve getting some ingredients from other places, then I couldn't do that. I'd have to have a manufacturing level zoning.
Oh,
And so
okay.
then I'd have to go to the zoning committee and tell them what I wanted to do, which we did. And then they wanted us to build a building on another part of the property and be along a different road than we were on because there's a
Okay.
paved road there. And so there's a lot of planning that goes into it
Oh,
and a lot of thought.
Mhm.
And so we opted to go with the unzoned town
Sure.
because being the type of business we are, there are things that come up, even though we're 100% natural and we are extremely diligent about our environment. That's huge for us.
Mhm.
And, we use a lot of recycled and recyclable materials, and we never would put something in the water system. Not everyone understands that.
Sure.
And so it was recommended to us actually to go to try and find an unzoned township. Well, Holcombe was perfect because my sister-in-law could help with the business. My mom was there. And then ended up Alyssa moved there, my daughter, when she joined the business, fell in love with a local boy and lives there now. And so I guess it was meant to be like that.
Sure.
But that, there's just a lot of considerations with this type of business that
Sure.
you don't think about. So that's what the smart growth was. They wanted
Okay.
to try and keep the agricultural land as much as they could. And it was meant to inhibit a lot of manufacturing from coming in and just shredding our environment.
Okay.
I think that's what it was meant as. I'm not
Sure.
sure that's how it ended up, but that's how it started out.
Sure. Well, and I was just wondering, because I noticed on your website, it talks about organic and wild crafted.
Yes.
Can you just define for us what that exactly means in your line of work?
Yes. So there's organic. So under organic, and this was something we had talked about right before the podcast, that there are so many words now in the industry. And as I mentioned earlier, people really, this was a new thing 10 years ago, but
Mhm.
now there are natural beauty products everywhere. They're in Target, they're in Walmart, they're everywhere. So we're seeing these words all the time, organic, natural, and, meant to be like organic. I mean, there's just tons of words. So things are losing their definition. So a lot of times you'll see the word organic and it'll have no meaning even, because what's organic to one person or one country even is different in another. So basically organic means something that's grown or made without the use of chemicals. So it's from an all natural source, and it's high, and it should be regulated where there's no pesticides used in the process of growing the plant.
Sure.
So that there's, just natural alternatives to weed control, pest control. But there's levels within organic, within that term. So there's the highest level would be USDA certified organic. So if you want definitely to know that your product is organic, you need to look on the label for the symbol that says USDA certified organic. That means that they've gone through the whole organic certification process. Their lab might be certified, and there's another one with that. It's called EcoCert. That's another really good one in our industry, and that's just for skincare companies. And EcoCert is even better than USDA organic. EcoCert is kind of a higher level. And when they're certified, that means that someone from the government has come in and they've reviewed their practices, they've seen the farm site, they know what you're doing, so there's an oversight there. Farms like us, we started the organic process, then COVID hit, we kind of backed off from things. We grow organically, so we grow using organic methods, but we are not certified. Our fields are not certified organic.
Okay.
And we're headed to that, but we're not there yet. And we never use any pesticides or any chemicals. And we probably, if I went today and said I need to be organic certified, we would pass very quickly, because we've been like this for 10 years. But that's where the consumer, though, has to be careful in who they're buying from. Like, you really have to have some trust and knowledge there, because I'm finding more and more small companies like ours that come in and say, yeah, we grow, it's organic, it's organically grown.
Sure.
And they're not even growing anything. They're getting their stuff made by a commercial outfit that makes things in bulk, and then they bottle it up. So there's a lot of misleading information. Wild crafting is really cool. It's not organic, because you can't ever be organic. Wild crafting is where we go out in the woods and we pick things that are growing naturally in their own environment. And that's why it could not be organic, but it is on a level with organic, because no one's actually farming it. Sure. So for example, birch, we use birch leaves in our products. Now I grow my own birch trees, because we got to the point where I was like feeling guilty taking the birch leaves. But there are other things like, now I'm at a loss for what the names of them are, but over the years we've gone into our woods and we have plots of certain plants that we will use. Like moss marigold, that's one of them, and we'll use those roots, but we have to be very careful. We only take a percentage from the harvest to ensure that plot keeps growing. That's wild crafting.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of like foraging.
Sure. Oh, that's really interesting. Now you had mentioned that you're moving towards certification. What requirements do you have to meet yet to get to that certified?
Well, we have to have them come out and look at the property.
Okay.
We have to sign paperwork that says we've not put any pesticides or any chemicals on there. And then we have to be monitored for a few years.
Okay.
So we're kind of a third of the way into the process. I'd say
goodness.
we're in the paperwork part.
Okay. Yeah.
We got it going, and then we, think life intervenes off and on.
Sure.
And so that's about where we're at. But I know we're definitely going there.
Yeah,
So,
that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Sounds like a lot of patience.
Yeah,
involved in.
that's just for the
some
farm
of
side.
this.
Then there's the lab part of it.
Oh,
And that's
sure.
a whole nother, that's where the EcoCert comes in.
Mhm.
And that's a whole nother process that I've been waiting on because it doesn't pay to get the lab certified until the farm is certified first,
okay.
because your ingredients need
Sure.
to be held in separate containers, and so you're not intermingling. It's almost like a gluten-free kitchen would be, like how they keep the gluten products separate from the other products so that they don't mix. And it's kind of almost like that. You have to have your organic materials kept separate from your non-organic materials.
Sure. So, can you tell us what's your best seller in your product line?
Oh, well, It is our Willow and Iris cleanser with the Primrose and Oak moisturizer. Those
my.
two facial products. Years ago, I would have said the body lotion because that's
Okay.
when we started out. But over the years, we've become much more about facial skincare.
Okay.
And that's much more technical area. And that's where Alyssa really having her helping was just huge for us.
Sure.
And she actually, her business, 7 Day Glow, is just all facial skincare.
Oh, okay.
Mine is more of a mix. So in the skincare and the facial side, it's that for us. And then that's quickly followed by face oils.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
that's our big specialty is
Okay.
oils. And then in the body side, body oil has actually overtaken everything else in the body care side of things.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes, people just are learning more and more. And there's less preservatives, and there's not the need for the same type of preservatives and the same type of emulsifiers in body oil. So it's a much safer product to use than a lotion.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good to know because I did not know that.
Yeah.
I'm a lotion person. Maybe
Oh.
I need to change my
Yeah.
regimen.
Yeah. And that's where, Alyssa needs to come back and give the
Sure.
lecture about what putting an emulsifier does to your
skin.
system, your body systems over time.
Okay.
Yeah, she has a
Alright.
great lecture on that. Or if people are listening and they want to learn more, they can head over to her podcast. She has her own podcast at 7dayglow.com. It's the number 7dayglow.com. And just click the podcast button at the top of the homepage. And she has a ton of podcasts that talk about everything skincare related and natural skincare. So that's a really
Sure.
great free resource.
Sure. Well, this is going to probably be a really easy question to answer. So, a lot of larger organizations have the luxury of having a research and development portion to them, so that they can expand their product line or maybe make improvements to the products they already have and then remarket it as something else.
Yeah,
For a small company, it's a little bit rougher because those dollars aren't, as much as it is in a larger corporation. So how do you at Brown Barn Botanicals plan on doing kind of that end of things?
Oh, well, from day one, it's been a research company more than anything else. I was just telling my husband that I think we've turned into a research farm because we're always experimenting with things. But what we do, our process includes a period of time before we put a product on the market where we're testing it. And it sits on the shelves and we test it on ourselves. We have our people. I will not reveal your names. Don't
Our
worry.
pilot test people.
Yeah. And I always laugh because I'm the first one to try any facial products. So often my skin looks the worst of everyone's because I have tried everything. And so it's a lot of in-house testing. There's also, because of Alyssa's background, we have a lot more. We're pretty savvy when it comes to things. And we have in our lab equipment for testing for mold and other things that we would not want to sell product to. So we're able to test our preservatives and things like that. Over time, our formulations, once you get a good formulation, then you can go off of that and you can adjust it. So for example, if I want to make a face oil for anti-aging, then I know from my background as an herbalist and the things that I know, which ingredients to put in there for anti-aging. And we do extensive research on our own, a lot of reading. And as being part of the Cosmetic Chemist Society, we have access to a lot of information through there. So there's a lot of, like I said, a lot of hands-on of our own. There are very few companies like us that actually grow their ingredients and take it all the way through to the end. And especially in the Midwest, there's very few small batch facial skincare companies. So you see more body lotion and bar soaps and things you see maybe at the farmers markets. So there's that portion of it. And I guess it's just being in this now. It's been almost 15 years and we just go with it. And we're parts of, like I said, we have a lot of connections. And if we have a question, we go back to the teachers and say, well, what do you know? And we're actually at the point now where we're ahead of some people, some of our resources. So we become a resource to others. And it's just, that's how this whole natural skincare thing as an industry has evolved. It was a very grassroots type of thing that came from people that really wanted a healthier alternative to big brand beauty.
Oh, sure.
And they did it. It's kind of one of those amazing things that you see happen in your lifetime.
Mhm.
So that's our research approach. You know,
Sure.
it's very, very much, we keep very careful records, and
Sure.
I have volumes of notes and things. So
Yeah, that's awesome. So, with regard to that, then we had talked a little bit about marketing and strategy,
Mhm.
for your products and that type of thing. Being online obviously is helpful because there's a lot
yeah.
of traffic that goes, and we have Facebook and Instagram and all those other kind of
Mhm.
social media types of things that a person can utilize. What other marketing strategy do you have to demonstrate to potential customers the value added? Is there health values in your products and
Oh,
that
yeah.
sort of thing?
Yeah. Well, I have to be careful when it comes to talking about health aspects of things, because the FDA is very, very concerned about companies that come in and make claims that their products will change the organic structure of a human body. So I can say, well, this may help with this, or this could help with that,
Mhm.
but I can never come out and say, well, it'll cure this or it'll cure that.
Sure.
So that's, I have to be careful even talking here, and
Oh,
making
yeah,
claims about
definitely.
health.
Definitely.
I think the biggest value added thing that we have is going back to what I said about the formulations are all natural, and knowing where your ingredients come from. It used to be when we started, we'd say, well, first we had to train everyone in what an all natural product was and why you wanted all natural versus chemicals on your body. That was the first step. Then from there, we went into more education with the customers through blogs. Back then it was all blogs about specific ingredients to avoid and specific ingredients to include, and why. And then they got pretty good with that. Then essential oils came in to the picture, and I'm sure maybe you remember when essential oils started getting to be
Oh,
big, and
yeah.
there are these market companies, and they really took off, and that actually helped us tremendously, because it helped push the whole idea of all natural and holistic
Oh, sure.
skincare, and self-care became a thing. And now it's more about learning where your ingredients come from, even over the ingredients themselves. So teaching the customers to read a label. We've been through that whole process, and people now are really smart about reading their labels
Mhm.
and looking for things. But companies equally have become very smart about about the words they use. So there's some things like, well, look at my notes here. I even noted one down. Petroleum, which is motor oil, is known under labels as mineral oil, liquid paraffin, petrolatum, and toluene.
Really?
Yes, and so it can show up as any of those on a label. Even I have to sit here with my notes and look, if I look at a label sometimes.
Sure.
And that's an ever-changing thing, because once that word gets out on the market and people identify what it is, well, then they have to change it if they're going to
Oh,
continue to use that. And the
sure.
reason they use those is because they're cheap ingredients.
Mhm.
And that gets you back to us.
Sure.
Our ingredients are the best of the best. Like I said, we know the field. I know what went on that. I know where it
Sure.
came from. And then when we do buy ingredients from other companies, I try to find local. So we use Wisconsin grown sunflower oil, USDA certified organic.
Mhm.
So I won't bring something into my company unless I know that it's certified organic, for the most part.
Sure.
Unless it's something that I can't even find it certified organic.
Mhm.
So I do the vetting for the customer,
Okay.
and over time, we've just built a great relationship with our customers, and
Sure.
social media plays a massive part of that. So we're on there just about every day. A Brown Barn especially, unless life intervenes, then we might have a little gap. And we have the blogs, and there's so many blogs in our library blogs now that I just put out so many at a time.
Oh, sure.
And then now Alyssa has branched out on her own, and she's got the podcast, and now we've gone into freebies that we give away freebies. So you can download a freebie. Again, go to 7dayglow.com or brownbarnskincare.com, and you can get, I think right now the freebie on Brown Barn's website is for recipes that you can make at home on your own for skincare products.
Oh.
So you can make your own lip oil, your own, facial masks. And I put together some recipes, and we're giving that away for free right now.
Oh, how fun.
And you do have to give me your email address.
Okay,
But
we'll
you
do that.
can unsubscribe later. And that is the biggest key, is our email list.
Oh,
And,
okay.
we have a list with many thousands of people. It's because
Okay.
having the stores built that list.
Sure.
And it gives us a lot of exposure. And I think our biggest helper is word of mouth.
Oh,
And
sure.
families, we have whole families of women that work from
Sure.
us.
Sure.
So that's pretty neat.
So where's your customer base? Where are you finding your customers are from?
Well, we sell all through the United States, including Hawaii and Alaska. We've
Okay.
started to add some Canadian customers. Shipping is kind of an issue for them. It's very expensive.
Okay.
But primarily, I'd say our customers are here in the Chippewa Valley.
Really?
Like, yeah, we still have a lot of Eau Claire and Chippewa customers,
Mhm.
and we love them. And they're the ones that'll call me. And I
Oh,
love
sure.
it when they call me, or they'll email me, and
Mhm.
we try to converse. And COVID, before COVID, we would have pop-up shops in our lab. So we've closed the Chippewa store, was our last store.
Okay.
And it was hard to say goodbye, but we
Mhm.
did close the store. Alyssa was looking to get pregnant at that time, and we
Mhm.
just knew stress had to. I was having, some health issues. We just had to
Mhm.
step back.
Sure.
And it was probably the best move we made as a company, because had we kept the store, I think I would have burnt out so bad. I would have closed it and walked away. It was
Oh.
just that stressful.
Sure.
And now we're reignited,
Mhm.
and it's really a cool thing to
Sure.
be part of. But sure, yeah, every day we get orders. And
That's awesome.
yeah, every week I'm shipping back to Chippewa and Eau Claire. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate you to no end.
So do you have, how many employees do you currently have?
None. Well,
You have
just
none?
right now we have my husband and myself and my daughter.
Okay.
And we have like when we are in our slow period, we
Mhm.
work really hard to build stock and inventory.
Okay.
So Alyssa getting pregnant was a little bit of a side swipe for me. I knew something was going on because she was a little spacey. And I said to her, "You're pregnant." She said, "No, Mom, there was no way." And 2 weeks later came back and said, "Yep, you were right." And so right now we're really hustling to get products made for Christmas and stuff.
Okay.
But we will bring in helpers,
Mhm.
people that have worked for us in the past.
Okay.
And they'll come and they'll help. And
Sure.
that for right now.
So do you
that's
have
where
kind
we're
of
at.
like seasonal employment then? Is
Yeah,
that what
Yeah. And
typically?
when we had the stores, it was always kind of like this. We had 1 or 2 people that worked in the lab. And then I just ran from store to store to store and did the marketing. And I
Oh,
still
okay.
do the marketing.
Mhm.
But closing the stores allowed me to be more on the farm and just more in control of things. So
Sure.
it's we do a lot. When we make a batch, we make enough that we know it'll last like a couple months, and then that's it. Then we make another batch. We don't make huge batches that sit on the
Sure.
shelf for 20 years. And that's another real benefit to us, is you're
Mhm.
getting really fresh product.
Sure.
So the batches aren't massive,
Mhm.
and that really helps with our manufacturing.
Sure.
And then the fact that we went from this huge store of 350 items down to, I think we're at like 35. That helps a
Okay.
lot too.
So how many customers can you sell to in a batch? I mean, like if you make,
A batch will make anywhere, well, like for Christmas, we make much bigger batches. But
Okay.
on average, our batches will go from 30 to 150 items, depending on what it is. If it's a
Okay.
bestseller, we make a much bigger batch.
Okay. And so the shelf life of your product, how long?
Well, because we make it fresh
Mhm.
and we sell it almost fresh right from the batch, the customer can use it for up to 2 years from opening it.
Oh, really?
And yeah, but
Okay.
we usually tell everybody 6 months to a year, because
Sure.
we don't know when it leaves us, even though it is preservative. They might have it sitting on a sunny window shelf.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
sill, or, typically you want to keep your natural skincare products in a dark, cool place.
Sure.
But, just because we don't know what happens when it leaves us, or their kids might be sticking things in it. So we tell them that, but
Sure.
usually, and you can tell if something's going bad, there's a smell to
Oh,
it,
sure.
or you can
sure.
see something in it.
Sure. Just, you mentioned COVID a little bit.
Mhm.
What impact did COVID have on your business?
It was interesting. At
Was it?
first I was scared, because I thought, man, nobody has to go out. They're not going to care about their skin anymore. And it was the opposite. Everybody was so into self-care that they started to care more, actually. And I had more really intelligent questions. And not that I never had it. To clarify, I always had intelligent questions for my beautiful, intelligent customers. It's just that they got a lot smarter about their skincare, and they learned a lot more because they had more time to stay home and read and
Sure.
get caught up with the blogs and stuff.
Mhm.
So actually our sales went up. And
wow.
yeah, for the most part, they went up. And I think it also says again about our great customers, because they were supporting us, and you could see they were supporting us.
Mhm.
Then they went down. So they went up and then they went down. But the down part, I think, was because my mom had passed in December of COVID, and I was not marketing like I normally do.
Oh,
It was just,
sure.
I had to take care of my dad, was behind, and he was 91. So
Yeah,
so I just wasn't
sure.
marketing as much as before.
Sure.
I can't really say it was COVID
Oh,
that
sure.
caused that.
Sure.
And we're back up again. So
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah, it's very interesting. We've had conversations and other podcasts, and COVID always comes up because it's still here. And some businesses, it really made them have to think out of the box and
Yes.
how they were going to do things differently to survive.
Mhm.
And with other companies, it actually was a boom for them.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting question to ask folks,
Yeah.
just kind of see what kind of a reaction the
Yeah.
business
Had we not closed the Chippewa our last stores, had we
Mhm.
still had 5 stores in 2 states, we would have
Mhm.
been bankrupt. There was no way we would have survived.
Sure.
But because we had closed the stores and we kind of had closed in onto ourselves and became an online only business for
Mhm.
that time, that really made the difference. Now we're gearing up to go into wholesaling again. We've done a little wholesaling, tested it, came back, readjusted things to be a better
Mhm.
wholesaler. And
Sure.
now we're just getting ready to go back out and start wholesaling. So hopefully our customers will be able to find our products in stores again
Oh,
soon.
that would be.
Mm-hmm.
What stores would your products have been in? Or
Well-
are you looking at?
Well, now then locally, well, we were in stores all over, but locally we were in the volume 1
Okay.
local store
Mhm.
in Eau Claire. And then we were also at a store in Holcombe, and that we just kept those 2 for the most part. We had other ones
Sure.
that come and go, but
Sure.
those 2 we really focused on because we were kind of testing the market to see what we needed to do on our end to be supportive and whether we
Sure.
could handle that.
Mhm.
So we had to step back a little bit, and then we readjusted.
Sure.
But we look for, ideally, it depends on the product. So if it's
Mhm.
one of our higher end skincare products, like 7-Day Glows products, those would probably go into spa
Mhm.
or an esthetician
Okay.
situation.
Okay.
Whereas our body oils could go anywhere.
Sure.
you know,
Sure.
so-
Okay.
So, and yeah, well, we just started selling on Amazon. So just getting on there. That's quite a process for us.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we're on multi-platform. So when you
Mhm.
asked before about marketing, online it's interesting having been on both sides, having had a brick and mortar store and now being an all online.
Mhm.
And I thought, oh, online will be so much easier. And it was very not so. It is as much work, if not more, than being in the brick and mortar store. But the brick and mortar stores are more like physical, and you're present and you're there. Where online is more, you're just you and your computer and
Mhm.
trying to focus and writing.
Sure.
So I can't say one is harder than the other. I
Okay.
can't say one is easier than the other.
Sure.
I do say that, yeah, even technically, I can't even say they're like apples and oranges. They're
Mhm.
just totally different. And I love them both
Sure.
equally.
Sure.
So that's pretty cool to have had that experience of both
Yeah.
sides of it. But with what I'm finding with online, the real key for us has been to be on multiple platforms. And so I'm always
Mhm.
looking for other places to sell. So we actually have an Etsy store. We have a couple of websites that people can land on. We're on, now we're going on to Amazon, and I've got a couple more that I don't want to say yet.
Yeah.
because they're not out there yet,
That's fine.
that we're working on, but those multi-platforms are really important to
Sure.
getting your face out there, and then adding the wholesaling. But we're also on Facebook, we're on Instagram, Pinterest, Twitter. My son keeps yelling at me to go on Snapchat, and I keep thinking, no, it's that's not for me. or TikTok. That is not going to happen. Maybe my daughter will, but I won't. But anyways, and then we have the podcast and we have the blogs and the email list is
Sure.
really important to us.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
So is there anything that would draw you back to a brick and mortar store?
Oh,
Do you
I'm
think?
always talking about it because I loved those stores. I love being able to see our customers face to face and talk to them. And I really just miss it terribly.
Sure.
But I also know that being vertically integrated and having the store being the end is that last piece from the lab to the store is really a challenge. And what would draw me back would be to find the exactly right employees. I would have to have someone that would manage the store
Oh,
where I could just maybe come and go once a week. And I think that's almost like a pie in the sky situation because it's just like any other business. You need to be present
Sure.
for it.
Sure.
Yeah. Maybe when I retire, I'll retire into a store and I'll sit in the back and make my products and be a
And greet
cranky.
people.
Yeah, be a cranky owner. I could be a cranky skincare owner. That would be kind of fun.
Oh my gosh. Well, one more quick question for you. Kind of what's the future? Where do you think you're headed?
I think we're headed for some really big things. We've got
cool.
some cool things going on and that are in the works. And one of them is that our body oils are just becoming so popular. So we're going to be wholesaling those. We're starting with those specifically.
Okay.
We have a whole new look and a whole new line. So that's really cool and exciting. And it's like the best of what we have. And it's something that is not out in the market that much, body oils yet. So we're always a little ahead of our time with us. So I think the future is in there. I think that we're going more and more into e-education.
Okay.
So you're probably going to see more courses and more of that type of thing. And I think ultimately we're going to end up being more like a business consultant to other small companies because I'm getting calls on a regular basis now from people that, oh, I want to have an herb farmer. I want to have a lavender farmer. I want to do this or that. I want to learn how to make these products. And there are schools for that, but there's no one that does it like we do, where we go from the field to the end. And so I would not be surprised to see that in the future that we would have this our own online program.
That is very cool. Diversification.
Yes,
right?
that is key.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Christine, for your time today. We really appreciate
Well,
it.
thank you for having me. This was really fun. I was
Yes.
nervous coming in, and but I'm so glad that we did this.
Yeah,
It's so fun to talk about your business.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And it's just it's a fun topic, learning about all these different businesses in the Chippewa
Oh,
Valley
sure. Yeah,
and
this is a great program.
just how blessed we are really in the community that we live. I just want to again thank our sponsors, CBS Squared and HSHS St. Joe's Chippewa Falls, for sponsoring today's program. We do have a Q&A session here that we promised you. I'm wondering if we have any people that were chatting at us during this time. No chatters. Any questions out there? We'll give people a couple of minutes to think about that if they are want to ask questions. While we're waiting for those questions, I just want to mention to you that there will be another podcast on August 24th from 12 to 1. It's going to feature Bloomer Brewing Company. So I am guilty of not knowing that Bloomer had a brewing company. So I can hardly wait for that one to come into view. And then just a reminder that our Chippewa County Economic Development Corporation will be hosting our annual meeting on August 27th from 11:30 to 1:30 at the Northern Wisconsin State Fairgrounds. If you haven't registered and you're interested in coming, or if you'd love to sponsor, we would love to have you. If you just please contact the CCEDC office at 715-723-7150. We'd love to take your call. So love to see you there. So, and I think that is all I have for today. So thank you again to everyone for joining us, and we'll see you next time.